Hey, everybody, it's Inside LAFC, episode
10.
10. Yay!
10, Maestro, the number 10.
That went by quick.
Yeah, it did.
That is Vince LaRosa, a.k.a. LAFC Vince. I am Max Bredos. Glad to spend some time with you here. Reminder to subscribe and leave notes and reviews here. It's not notes, leave comments.
We've been getting more
Yes.
comments and more reviews.
We got to have a sit down and talk about that.
Yeah, they've been glowing.
Good. It should be glowing. This is good. This is well thought out.
Thank you for the reviews. Thank you for the subscriptions. Thank you to all the OGs that have been here for 10 episodes, plus the back-to-back podcast, plus the Locker Room and Walker Zimmerman, plus the family of LAFC Pod family of podcasts. I mean,
Correct.
There's 24 hours of LAFC content for you if you need it.
And Beta time is back. So Stephen Beta basically has his SAG card. He could be a working personality / actor, voiceover person in Los Angeles. Congratulations, Beta. You did it.
He's coming for you, Bredos.
Is that what this is all about?
Yep.
Is that what this is all about?
I'm grooming your replacement as we speak.
It's a 10-year project, I hope. Hopefully it's not a 1-year project.
He's a little rough around the edges, but, you know.
Yeah, he's going to be kept busy, hopefully well into November.
Yeah.
So Beta. But still, well done. The beard looks good. Everyone's doing great. So much great content here and so many great things on the horizon as well. But you're at the right place inside LAFC. And let's get right into it.
Yeah.
Seattle, back-to-back games.
Weird game.
So LAFC completes their back-to-back with the Sounders. They get 4 points, which I think at the beginning of these two games, you'd be pumping your fist and saying, okay, we did good. The way this game went, LAFC would be disappointed not to have 6 points and put Seattle somewhat in their rearview mirror at this early stage, which is amazing because they were an unbeaten team just a couple weeks ago. And here we are. So, by the way, it's going to happen again with LAFC. They have games with FC Dallas coming up in May in about a 5-day. So this is a phenomenon happening. I'm sure other teams are dealing with it as well. But it was a weird game, heavily officiated by necessity in some cases, and 1-1 early, and then we just sat and watched. So it was. I think there's a lot good to take about. One thing I would say, and I'll put the ball in your court here, is LAFC looked better on an artificial surface than they did the last time we saw it. And I think that's important because they're going to – I don't think they have a whole lot of games on turf coming up, but they do, and they could have some in the postseason as well.
I actually looked into that. 2 matches remaining on turf.
That's not bad.
New England and Portland.
Okay.
So thank goodness for that.
That's their new home opener, too, so you would imagine –
that
it's going to feel very grassy.
That game's going to be nuts. It's going to feel grassy. I wish they had grass there. But, yeah, I'd agree with you.
It won't feel like a parking lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, so what I've been told is that Seattle surface is one of the better turf surfaces. I don't know what that means. But I guess if you can say the eye test, it showed because the LAFC looked a lot better on it aside from
– Right. Well, this is good for LAFC because the challenging situations on the road, they've gotten some out of the way, a couple on artificial turf, and then the Yankee Stadium game, rearview mirror.
Yeah. Well, I think when you look at it and when you look at Bob's comments after and how kind of you'd think he'd be upset because his team wasn't able to find that goal, but sometimes it's just not going to be your day, one. But two, the movements and the combinations to look to find those goals, at least they were there. So he could have been a lot more upset. I think you saw him that Vancouver game a lot more upset, not because of the result per se, but because of the process.
Yeah.
And the process was there for LAFC. But again, look, there's going to be days where you have a wide open net and it's just not going to fall for you. And I think the first thing I thought after that game is what does a manager do in that moment? Like as Bob Bradley as head coach, is he going to yell at his squad for wasting opportunities, or does he tell them, hey guys, this is just chalk it up to your day? And I kind of guessed that he would have came out and been the way he was in the press conference, but you can never tell. I mean, it's a weird dichotomy to be. It's a results-driven business. So yeah, 3 points, especially if it could have been 6 points against a direct rival, you need that. But you can't. You got to. It's a long season. You got to manage. You can't hammer guys.
No.
When you have that kind of.
He picks his spots really, I think, really well, whether it's to challenge his team, to challenge officials here. He was very complimentary, I think, afterwards for the Sounders. I think initially when you see their tactics change because of the red cards, you go, maybe he's going to be in, but that's the right course for Seattle when you're down a man. And I think he was complimentary of their hard work. I think with the chances, Christian Ramirez's one comes up, and he was asked about that, and he says the team has a lot of confidence in him, and that he's been playing really well, which I think you can say. No one's more upset about that than Ramirez for a goal that could have won the game. But there were a lot of chances. There was a lot of good build-up that just didn't lead to those either goals or really gilt-edged goal-scoring opportunities.
Well, I think you nailed it on the head when you said Christian knows that was a big opportunity.
He tweeted about it.
Yeah, he did tweet about it. I would say I'd rather not see him tweet about it because
I think I would agree with you. It's just that I think I'm always from the book. It's in the past. Let it go.
Well, the only reason I don't want him to tweet about it is this: there's going to be people that are going to hammer you to no end, and they're not going to care what you tweet. But to the people that are saying things like, this guy knows more than anybody what it means and what that goal means. He's not letting it go easy. I think that's what he's trying to show. But we know that, Christian. We know that about you. There's been no moment at any time, even when he's been scoring goals, that he's taken anything lightly here. So I think that's another reason why if you're Bob Bradley, you're like, what am I going to hammer a guy for what he already knows?
Yeah. And Bob, with the guys that, he is, along with John Thorne, he picked out that fit well in the system, they've done well. And Christian Ramirez has, just that tucking away here. He does have a couple goals on the season. But we'll say, let's talk about the officiating. I think we hear a lot from folks that they say LAFC is being aided by red cards. They've had 5 red cards called against them in games. LAFC opponents have picked up 5 red cards. The opener against Sporting, second game against Portland, Real Salt Lake, all 3 of those games at home, then DC United, and now the Seattle game. And all the previous red cards happened in the second half. Some happened before a goal that LAFC scored, Sporting Kansas City, Real Salt Lake. So, yeah, maybe the red cards aided them there. I don't think that's something you can say. The other games, I think the result was already taken care of. And in this one, we saw how, and we talked about it before we started the podcast, where a red card doesn't really help LAFC because they were doing their game plan was going well, and then Seattle now has to drop back Lodero and Morris, and it's a different situation altogether, which I certainly made LAFC uncomfortable.
Yeah, the red card almost turned Seattle into one of their Cascadia counterparts in Vancouver, right?
Right, yeah.
And LAFC...
And you can't fault them for that. 19th minute, you'd be a lunatic to say, hey, we're going to play this way. You've got to change your tactics.
You've got to change your tactics. But Seattle is one of those handful of teams that you would say, when they go up against LAFC, and this is why these games are fun to watch, they're not afraid to play. LAFC is also more than willing to play with anybody and would prefer you play with them. Like, they want to go toe-to-toe with you. They don't want to spend 80% of the possession trying to break down a bunker team. It's not fun. It's really not fun. It's not fun to watch either. I mean, it's just horrible for the game. So I would say the red card did help is not the word, but it definitely forced Brian Schmetzer to change tactics. He even said after the game, the red card, what it did was 2 things. One, manager had to get creative, which Bob Bradley did, putting Latif Blessing at right back, saying, okay, they're going to play narrow. I might as well get some width, and they're not putting men forward, so why not put Latif there anyways? And it showed it was a good tactic. Yeah. I mean, Latif is the one that created that chance for Christian Ramirez. And then Schmetzer, on the other hand, says, well, what I can do is say, hey, guys, let's just bunker down. Let's just say, hey, whatever happens, happens. Don't be worried about mistakes. Pick up your teammate. Go out there. And they did. It's funny. They went exactly down those lines. I feel like a 1-1 was fair.
Yeah. I think, and again, I think when we look back at some of these results, the Cincinnati result, we're like, oh, LAFC didn't do this. They won the game. And Seattle, you've got to be frustrated that this didn't go the way. And you get a tie at one of the best teams, safe to say, Major League Soccer this year or the last few years. And that bodes well for LAFC because things aren't going well, but they're not taking L's. Nope. They are having losses. They're having wins where they don't feel completely fulfilled, and results here as well. I get your thoughts on that, but hey, did you think it was a red, that first one against Roldan?
I do, only because, first of all, anybody watching that play in slow motion and continuing to go on and on about Edouard falling, stop it.
Yeah.
Watch anything in slow-mo and it looks like it's acting. But just stop it. But I'd say...
If you get hit out of the blue, I don't think... That's not acting out to us. I don't think it was for me, but I'm not going to argue about it.
Well, in the face, in and around his eyes, I would say that's why you get a weird reaction. You know, get hit in the face and then take like a poke to the eye. Yeah. It's one of those like delayed things. But that's the directive. That's the only thing I say about those kinds of things is, well, you know, if you get put in that situation, I know that it's not right. I mean, sometimes the rules aren't fair. but you got to just do whatever you can to stay away from an opponent's face.
Yeah.
Because anytime you put that decision into the referee's head, he's going to have to
they are
step up.
By the book, if a blow to the face or anything of that nature is a red card. I don't know if it was all intentional, but you can't put the ball in the referee's court there. I thought Seattle probably should have got a red card somewhere along the lines with Kim Kee.
He deserved one.
Probably deserved one. They did.
Ladero did a few things
get
that
the second
were
one late. We said 5. There are 2 red cards there. So
was it Ladero that blasted the ball into his own stands? Not a good look with what's going on lately in MLS.
There was a dicey tackle. If we keep going this, we're going to get a 1-star review from anyone who listens to us from Seattle.
Sorry, Seattle.
But Segura was about to play out on that last play of the game, that last sequence, and it was the other Roldan who came in really hot.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't get a clear look, but the reaction of Segura suggests he got a lot of Segura, not a lot of the ball. So it was pretty gnarly game.
When they were going to bring in Alex Roldan, I asked, could they maybe just bring back Christian and no one would know? They look eerily similar, but I would say this to bring so I can get.
I was talking about NFL. If your team's really bad, just put like a great player's helmet. They can't see.
Yeah, they would never know. I mean, to try to win back my Seattle people, I didn't want you guys to get red carded. You wanted an 11-on-11 game. These are 2 of the top teams in MLS, probably 2 of the top 3 teams in MLS. I wanted to see a good game. I thought, look, I was obviously very much happier of the 2 for the game in LA 4-1, but it was a good game to watch. It was 2 teams trying to do stuff.
Very good.
So we wanted to see that again. And to me, and if you read my takeaways, I say this too, I wasn't happy with the match in general. And not just because they couldn't find the winner, but because it was like 4 minutes, 2 goals, just craziness. Red card at 18th minute, then a bunch of, just probing and prodding and bunkering, and then a crazy minute at the end, and then match over.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't a good match to watch. It was just bookended by sheer craziness.
By the way, moving forward, LAFC's. Have you seen the latest MLS power rankings?
Are we not number 1?
We are number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 is the Galaxy, and then 3, 4, and 5 are the 2 Texas teams and the Sounders. So all in the Western Conference. It's going to make things very difficult. I don't think that's going to change too much. I think a couple teams in the East will emerge.
Yeah,
maybe Toronto.
When you have Atlanta down,
maybe Atlanta.
Red Bulls down. Toronto seems okay-ish, but Josie Altidore is going to be out for a little bit. We'll see how they handle that. DC has shown that they're bobbling. So, yeah, the class is definitely in the West.
Oh, congrats to Josie. Engaged. Very good. So,
power couple.
We don't want to get too much on it because I don't know. It's worth previewing. LAFC's coming back home, which is great news. Taking on the Chicago Fire, who's only got 2 wins, struggling, lost to Montreal. So,
what do you make of the Chicago Fire?
I'm intrigued because they have guys like Alexander Katai, who's a good player individually. Does he work? We obviously have Bastian Schweinsteiger, who's up there in years, but still a quality player. Walter Gaitan is a guy I've always admired, but how does it work? Right now, you're like...
It seems to be a mismatch.
It is.
Of good players with some technical ability like Schweinsteiger, but maybe you're on the older side, and players that they seem very top-heavy to me. And if you are trusting your midfield to Dax McCarty and Bastian Schweinsteiger, and I like Jordi Mihalovic, but he's young, and he wants to press forward more. But if you're trusting those 3 to defend our midfield trio, I'm thinking there's going to have to be some tactic change if I'm I can never say Pavlovic. I can never say his name right.
Paunovic. We should know that. I'll be calling the game. It's on YouTube TV. That's the reason to get excited about it. It's back on YouTube TV. If you have YouTube TV, join us all afternoon. If you don't get it, you get 70 channels, unlimited DVR. It's a great service. Even if you already have cable or something else, just for your phone. Walk around.
Yeah, it's a replacement for your cable. for the millionth time. I can't believe I have to tell people this over and over again. Don't get both. Get one.
But you have that process where you go from one to the next. I get it.
That's fine. That's fair.
Cutting the cord is such it's like
don't literally cut any cords.
Back.
It's
don't cut the cords.
Okay, these are bad jokes.
Hey, this is a revenge game too. I mean, Chicago beat them last season.
This is a revenge game.
So there's a lot there.
Yeah, and they've so far executed on all their revenge games leading up to the season. Yeah. So you'd like to see them continue the trend. being at home. I need something to wash the taste of this last match out of my mouth, because it really was not palatable to watch at all.
Yeah.
And just
I would say it could have been worse.
The sunshine on that turf, which is so bright. I feel like I needed sunglasses while I was watching. There's just so many things I did not like about the match.
I'd like to see you watch games with sunglasses on. I think that'd be a good look for you. And maybe on this podcast.
Maybe next week.
By the way, I got my new LAFC hat. I'm fitted. I'll wear it next week so you can see. Also got this shirt.
You won't. You'll forget. That's an old shirt.
Is it?
I think so.
Well, it feels new to me.
Feels new. The jacket's new.
The jacket's new. All right. So, by the way, it would be great to have a good Chicago team in Major League Soccer. So we'll see, but that's not going to happen this year.
No.
When we return, we have had the 1-year anniversary of the opening home game at Banc of California Stadium. So we're going to share our top 5 moments. That was very difficult because there's been so many. Some on the field, some at the bar, some on the streets, some in the store.
Yep.
There's a lot of places to explore there, certainly. And a little bit later, something happened in the world of soccer which has everyone talking. We're going to give you our thoughts on fair play and where it stands. This is Inside LAFC. We'll be right back. We're back at Inside LAFC. It's Max and Vince here, and we've already looked back and looked forward to what's on tap for LAFC. And now we look back again to April 29th, 2018. What a night.
It's been a year.
It's been a year. I looked through my phone because I was looking for photos that we've taken over the years, and all these memories in so many days inside the stadium. I was at that stadium twice yesterday. Obviously, there's something going on, but and you're there all the time. It's really become a second home, and because of its size, we walk in there and do some work, pull out our laptop, walk around, go to the store, have lunch there. It just feels like almost an office space, a really fancy office space.
Yeah. Well, I had the pleasure of working on one piece of content this past week at the stadium with a few groups of fans that came through. We basically sat them down in their seats the night of February 29th, 2018, and just kind of talked them through the whole night, what it was like to be there, what it was like to walk through those doors. And I'm still finding myself finding little places around the stadium that I haven't really been at before. And just seeing and sitting with those people and being like, these are your seats. Yeah. These are fantastic. And they go, well, you work here, don't you? I'm always in the press box, man. I never get to.
We gotta move. I've started getting out of that press box a bit. Press box is good, and you get all the materials you need. But running down, but we've done it too because you get down to do your interview on the field
right before the end of the match.
Experience that, and by the way, that is unbelievable. Getting down there right when the game ends, especially when LAFC wins. But going through the field club, going to the other side on the east side of the stadium to the Figueroa Club, there is. As intimate as it is, there's little spots for everyone. And you made a really good point about people sitting in their seat for the first time, saying, "I'm gonna have a lot of great memories here. This is where I'm gonna sit."
Well, the best part about doing that was asking the question, "How did this set the tone?" And they were like, "Well, we thought that there was nowhere to go higher from here, and you just kept having more and more moments." And so that, I guess, is a good segue to a piece that I wrote just this morning that came out. My top 5 moments at Banc of California Stadium for the year. Not the season, the year. So from April 29th, 2018 to 2019, I put together 5. I'm going to guess a lot of our 5 will probably interweave.
Yes. Mine were, by and large, game-related, but there was some good...
That is the one caveat. So I made sure that mine were pitch-related only because it'd be too hard for me to pick between the new chants that have been created, Jump for LA Football Club, the call to 100%. Arms this year, the different nights we had, Pride Night, Ladies Night, Navy SEALs coming from the sky, every home match.
Well, that plays into the home. By the way, the Navy SEALs were awesome. I saw them land. They started the day, and then they were. I popped in the director's box to say, "Hey, congratulations to the guys." They were in there, and then I went into I was at the sunset deck, and it was like, everyone's kind of closing up, and I go, the last 2 guys were the Navy SEALs, and I was like, well, you guys are awesome.
Those guys
know. We had the best time.
Those guys know how to party.
Yes. Remember, I think the last home game down at Christmas Tree Lane, Ozo Motley playing, and all the fans. It was just So many great moments and memories, just filling in the coffers of your day-to-day routine.
Yeah.
So, okay, obviously we could probably drag on here because it's very busy, but you go ahead and give us your top 5.
So
I'll sprinkle in mine.
Yeah, my top 5. Number 5 for me was return of Mark Anthony Kaye. And I pinned that specifically as the goal against Portland. I rewatched the goal itself, but if you rewatch the moment after the goal, his celebration just goes nuts, just running, doesn't exactly know where to run, but just running. And then Steven Beitashour, and I even said this in the piece, grabs him and doesn't want to let go. And for me, it was like that moment of you're back on the pitch. I don't want to forget this.
Vince.
I don't want to. I want to. He was taken away in that season last season just so quickly. It was just kind of swept under the rug because what's oddly enough is he goes down injured. We score a goal against the Galaxy, and it's kind of like it's not like we forgot him, but it's just the season moves on, and it moves on so quick. So to have Beta just kind of be like, hey, man, let's savor this moment.
Yeah, bottle it, kid.
To me, that was something special, and I'll always remember being in that press conference room when Bob Bradley came in and told us that Mark was out.
I love gathering in the press conference room.
Yeah, it was one of those moments that I'll always remember because it just kind of transcended the players for a moment. Because he's just such a great guy, and fans know this. I'm not telling you anything you already know. So return the Mac, 5. 4 for me was the hat trick, the first hat trick, Banc of California Stadium, Dio, with Carlos gone, Marco Urania gone. Diego Rossi, actually, I forgot, did not play in that match.
That was against Philly?
Philly.
Yeah.
Diego Rossi didn't play in the match. Dio says, I got this. Hat trick. First hat trick. And they were all different goals. I remember
Dio. Yeah. Let's see you back in there.
Remember him turning a guy for the first goal and just angling and 1v1. So 3 for me, the rain game. How can we forget the rain game? Just the craziness. Watching supporters watch the Dodgers play during the intermission. That's on my list. So
I'll touch on that Dodger game too, but that was surreal.
Yeah, and then obviously Carlos comes back and just decides I'll take over this game. Says after the match, maybe I should play more games in the rain.
Yeah, probably not going to
Carlos. Yeah, probably not going to have that chance in California, but.
We need some rain, by the way, in LA after that rush of rain a couple months ago. We need some.
And then 2 for me, I vacillated. So I almost wanted to put this because personally for me, I was pitch side when Dio hit the goal against Sporting KC. I tried not to make it too much about myself, but this is about me. So I didn't switch it. I didn't completely switch it out because I could not. Number 1 is clearly Simon. Simon scoring the goal in the opener. But I vacillated. I thought for a second there I was going to put Dio, but to me it's just because
2 Dio, 1.
2 Dio, 1 is Simon. But I was going to put Dio as number 1 because for me it was not just the goal and not just being pitch side, but it was the fact that it was a reminder that a lot of magic has happened at that stadium in a short amount of time.
There's ghosts in that stadium, baby.
4 victories with goals, 89th minute or after, in a 365-day span. I mean, what teams would be lucky to get that in 5 years?
100%. Teams would be lucky to get 3 hat tricks from 3 different players in 5 years.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
It's happened here. So, not necessarily all in the stadium, some on the road.
So Dio 2, Simon number 1, and I think for a lot of people it's going to be hard to dislodge that for a long time. Eventually, though, the way that we are going, that moment will have to move from number 1 because there's going to be a moment that's going to top it, whether it's an MLS
the way
Cup,
it's coming in.
a supporter shield, something's going to top it.
Well,
so Max,
hosting MLS Cup at Banc of California Stadium,
Cup,
not far-fetched right now.
Hosting a CONCACAF Champions League match there. I mean, these things, it'll happen.
Getting that title for Major League Soccer of all these years, we'll see. All right, so I'll give this a shot. There are some duplicates, but there's some different things of what sticks out for me. I'm going to start at 5, and it was the game against Minnesota, May the 9th. And I'm going to make it about me and our YouTube TV broadcast team. That was our first home broadcast game. Angela Hucles was our +1. I remember every detail. I remember did our pregame show at the water, the little pool. We don't call it a pool.
It's a water feature.
The water feature up there at Sunset Deck. It was very cool. It was very hot that day. And just being able to do that, LAFC victorious, and just sharing that moment, seeing all the work that goes in, was very cool.
A midweek game that we were all a little nervous about because I believe it was the first midweek game packed.
Yeah, and we're always waiting, and sometimes it was like, I think it was one of those things where it wasn't fully loaded, packed there, and then within an instant you look up and it's full.
Yeah.
It's LA, baby.
If you have the view from the press box where we did, which you didn't because you were doing the commentary, but you look and you wonder, you're like, man, there's still a lot of people filling. But then we looked at the gates over where that Los Angeles sign was.
Yeah.
It was 30, 40 people deep. It was just amount of people. They just could not get
the
in
northeast
fast
entrance
enough.
gates. You see people coming off Figueroa pouring in. It goes back and back. I always love it because it's such a comforting feeling.
Yeah.
Number 4 is the playoff loss to Real Salt Lake last November. And the reason I have it on, obviously didn't end well, but it was such a visceral feeling because you knew first of all, the stadium has never been that electric. It seemed like there was 2 people in every seat. It seemed like the 3252 was more like a 7600, quite frankly.
Closer to the yellow wall that it was fashioned after.
And there was stuff that was happening, stuff being thrown on the field, but I don't want to take anything away from it. It was just so intense, knowing the season could possibly end, and it did. And just knowing that feeling of walking out the last time was so devastating because this was our everyday, and we would get back into it sooner than we thought. But that's a memory that will stick with me for a long time. And I remember speaking to Stephen Badisher. We tried to do an interview. He was just it wasn't a good interview because his emotions were etched on his face, and everyone was just feeling that way. And you could see the professionalism of him and how much it felt because he's always a happy-go-lucky guy, always smiling, and I just never seen him like that. So that I will remember. Number 3 was the game against Dortmund. It wasn't the most electric that we've seen it, but there was something about it. Was this event, and Kevin De Bruyne, I believe that was the game where people were trying to get tickets, right?
That was the game where everyone's like, "Hey, did you see Kevin De Bruyne?" I was like, "Wait, excuse me, Kevin De Bruyne was here?" He's like, "Yeah, he was just behind you."
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Another heads up for these things, please.
But that day more than ever, because there was a list of people that were there, and they would go, "So and so's here." So and so go, "What?"
Yeah.
And I couldn't say we can't grab everyone, but everyone was there. It seemed like because they wanted to see it. But also there was Borussia Dortmund, and I've seen over the years covering MLS. When you have these big European visitors come in, you can see them going through the motions.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, let's get our paycheck. Let's play a game. Let's move on. It's the end of the season. We're tired. But there was this starry-eyed look, not only with the players of Dortmund, more so with those in the front office or whoever was the traveling group from Dortmund. This was a big deal for them. And you kind of saw it was in their eyes, and that was something they might share with people down the road.
Yeah.
Did you sense that?
Oh, yeah.
It was really cool. I've never felt that before with a European visitor. This is a big club.
They had to have been, hyped up from us over and over. They're flying over here. They're like, yeah, sure, I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm sure it'll be fun.
We'll
and
lock
then
it in.
they
And then
walked
it hits
in,
them.
and we're like, oh, you guys have done something really special.
Yeah, we want to come back.
Oddly enough, we had a
hands.
meeting yesterday where there were some guys from the Bundesliga in our meeting, and they talked a little bit about this, where it was just they've never seen something so close to their fan-driven culture. To them that is so important. That
that's
model.
That's exact quote. That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what stood out when
that model in Germany is so important. So I think that's what it is. Like they were like, yeah, it's LA. You'll have a fancy building. That's fine.
Yeah.
And we do. And they came in for that, but I think
you'll have a tragically hip crowd.
They were blown away to walk in the stadium, see that people were already in their seats, hear the chants, hear the noise from the locker room. I think they just couldn't. They couldn't believe. They probably thought we were joking, and then they finally saw it for themselves.
I think you make a good point because it breaks down barriers about how Los Angeles is viewed because L.A. is a real city. It's working class. It's a melting pot of diverse groups from all over, and you see it at Banc of California Stadium where you don't see it in any other place. So I think that is a huge – and the city of L.A. should thank all those who gathered at Banc of California Stadium for moments like that. Number 2 was the October game against Houston with the lengthy rain delay, which ended we were there for 4 hours plus.
I know.
The one there is the Dodger game going on because a lot of stadiums don't want to do things like that because you're worried about safety, I think. I don't know how that would affect the safety, but when things like that happen, they shut everything down. They go, get out, and we'll resolve it. But they were very forward-thinking towards their fans. They said these fans would like to see a Dodgers playoff game, and they did. So I remember our Ian Joy was our +1 on YouTube TV, and he was involved in the other Houston game, so he brought rain to both. But it was just the fact that we hadn't had rain in the city, and not only we have rain, we had lightning. El Nino kind of going through.
If you remember, it wasn't the rain that was the problem. It was because of lightning that we had to delay the game, not the rain. I mean, although the rain was, it was torrential.
But we would always get the warnings, hey, there's more lightning in the air. Oh, jeez. And then, you know what? I didn't mind if it went another hour. Most of the time I'm looking at my watch. I want to go home. But this speaks about this club and this team. I I want to spend all night there if that was the case. I was having so much fun.
Yeah, it was fun hanging out with everybody.
It was. Everyone was in on it.
Until the match ended, and then I realized, I have work to do.
And then Carlos Vela allowed us to,
he was fantastic in that match.
It was beautiful. Number one, for all the reasons, the opening game, and I think I did tweet about this, and I just want to reiterate it. I don't want to take too much more time on this, but walking in for the first time, but what I always felt was the familiarity of the place and how I had almost felt like I'd been there before. I don't know if that it was okay. Here it's like business, almost business as usual. It's like you put so much stock in that opening game, but it felt like this was just a chapter of this book, and we were building on it. And it felt like deja vu was hitting me, and maybe because maybe I saw into the future, but seeing people like knowing where to go, and that same routine I've almost followed every time I've gone to the stadium. Get in the Banc of elevators there in that beautiful lobby right by HQ, going up, saying hi to person here, saying hi to some security, going to the press area, coming down to the field club. I do that same routine every time now.
I think it hit all the right notes of what a football match should be, what a true event should be. And you can attest to this, having gone to matches in Europe. It kind of has that feel, right? Like everyone seems to know each other. Hey, we're back again. It's another week. Let's do this, another home match. And so it's another one of those things that goes to similar with the supporters, where everyone's like, well, how does it feel like we've already been here for 20 years? And it did feel like that. Because it's presented the way that your mind tells you, hey, this is how we're supposed to do it. Like, finally, somebody's starting to get it right. And we're not the only ones that do it right. I don't quote me on that. I mean, there are other teams. Sporting KC does a great job of their game day presentation and making it feel like a real football match from countries that have been doing it for forever. But it's just surprising that from day one you walked in and you felt that. So that's a cool point, because I couldn't put my finger on it.
But that's what hit me. I'm like, God, this feels normal. And I don't want to diminish it. And look, the goal was great, but was it the classic goal from LAFC? No. I don't want to poo-poo it here, but we got a little lucky. But
you're going to get a phone call from Laurent Simon.
Thank goodness it was scored. And Laurent Simon, whatever he put on it, credit to it, because that changed the tenor, maybe for the whole season.
I think so.
Yeah, you have a 1-1. Yeah. And all of a sudden, let's party.
You can't have a 0-0
in
your opening match. Yeah, it would have been 0-0.
All right. And that's against, the LAFC, the way they play. All right. So share your favorite memories with us. Leave a little comment on Inside LAFC, and maybe we'll pull out a couple next week and talk about it, because I'm sure there's ones that we've overlooked. There's so many more. We're just, scratching the surface here. When we return, big moment in the world of soccer that has everyone talking, so we're going to address it as well. It has to do with fair play. What is inbounds? What is out of bounds? That's next on Inside LAFC. Max and Vince, Inside LAFC. We continue here, and there was a situation, can you call it an incident, that happened in a game between Leeds United and Aston Villa. And before I go any further, I just want to make it known, this was a highly important game. This was in the English Championship. Leeds was in third, still with a chance for automatic promotion. Probably weren't going to get it. Aston Villa in fifth, both in the playoff positions. If you are unaware, making the Premier League from the Championship is the biggest jump in world soccer. I don't think financially you can't touch it. It's hundreds of millions of dollars, and it could add to more money and more money as long as you stay up.
Yes.
It's clubs get up and they don't go back down. Some come right back down,
and you don't want to be in those playoff spots. I mean, you do because you want a chance. But for Leeds especially, you want automatic promotion.
Leeds been really good,
it's a 46 match season. And then you make it to the top 6, and if you're not in the top 2 spots, you got to slug it out again.
And these are clubs. Villa came down, and they should never. They are the biggest club in the Midlands of England, in the area, Birmingham, which I think is the second biggest city, right, or third biggest city in England.
Yes.
So there's a lot of pressure for them to come up. Leeds have been down for so long. They were one of the big clubs of the North that have. Everyone's been waiting.
Leeds.
I think everyone. Yeah, well, Leeds made a Champions League semifinal just 2 decades ago.
The white uniforms, Harry Kewell, Ian
Harry
Hart.
Kewell.
Harry Kewell was phenomenal.
Who's the Australian?
Mark Viduka.
Harry
Kewell
Viduka.
Also Australian, though.
Kewell as well.
Yeah, Mark Viduka. Just
Ian
towering.
Hart.
Ian Hart.
Left back.
Yep. Alan Smith.
Yeah.
Rio Ferdinand.
Sniffer Smith. Rio Ferdinand.
Rio was on that team. They overspent their means, though. That's what happened.
If you haven't read The Damned United, read it. It's about Leeds, and it kind of get a touch on how successful they were.
Also a movie with Michael Sheen.
Who did a great job. That's made my favorite. I want to go watch that movie again. It's very good.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make you feel like I was a little bit more literate, and I was mentioning the book, but I actually saw the movie first, and then I read the book. True story.
Fair.
All right, so big game. Leeds United Villa. No score, 72nd minute. Villa player goes down in the middle of the field. Referee doesn't blow it. Leeds players look at each other, clamoring around. Well, what do we do? So they don't play the ball out. Villa players stop playing, go kick the ball out, check on the player. Leeds player passes it to another Leeds player. Villa players are blowing their top, but they've almost to a man stopped playing. Pass inside, Leeds score. Villa players attack the Leeds player. Some of the Leeds players attack the Leeds player to talk about, hey, fair play. The broadcaster goes on and on saying, this is, these weren't his words, but he was not happy with it whatsoever.
Wasn't it he said it was the worst thing he's ever seen.
Something
right?
to that effect. This is the worst thing I've seen on foot. And I go, okay,
been,
pump the brakes, pal.
Yeah, we don't want to bring him up, but there's been a lot of worse things in English football that have happened.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I think it's true. In the English game, there's this separation. This doesn't happen here. It does. It does. So I'll get your thoughts about it. And we're teasing a little because we talked about this on the upcoming LAFC Black and Gold show, which you can see on YouTube TV, us two and Mark Rogandino. And your thought about the two sides, whether you knock it out, and in the middle of it all, the referee saying, it's okay by me, you can do whatever you want. The ball's in your court.
So I briefly touched on this in our YouTube Black and Gold show, and I want to touch on it more because being Italian, every time I watch a Champions League game, and invariably there's some kind of English commentator, we hear about dark arts. The English seem to be the only cultural league that believes that they're above gamesmanship.
Yes.
Which now is the problem, which is where this kind of centers.
Right.
Which is
and
why
the hypocrisy is part of this too, because
they've torn Bielsa apart all season for things that they do in just different fashions, and because he's a foreigner, and I don't like that. There's something sinister about it. But the funny thing is, the English have been like, this is just what they do, as if they're the arbiters of football. Remember, hey, we're bringing it home with the World Cup.
Yes.
Get out of here. Get out of here. But I'll say this. This is the key point.
Good. I love this, Vince. Bring it.
It was the center forward.
Yeah.
The center forward is the one that went down in this. Why would you ever stop play for a center forward when you're the team that then has turned around?
As long as it wasn't a head injury, and the referee would have stopped it.
Referee would have stopped it. I mean, look, it would have taken one guy to continue to play to stop the other guy. It's not. I mean, look, the guy continued to play, but it's not like he had this like a special pace to him or anything. He kind of was like, well, if you guys aren't gonna get me, I'm gonna just continue to make my way towards the goal. But it's classic English. They're so hell-bent on the principle that they forget about the practical aspect of it. And then on top of it, Bielsa actually goes out of his way to say, fine, let him score.
He had enough.
And gets
no score.
And gets
no credit for it.
Gets no credit for it.
I would have not let him score.
No.
I would have not let them score because those points still could have been valuable. Sheffield United ended up getting promoted, and I don't think the result would have made any difference.
It would not have. I think the only thing he's thinking of smartly is, well, the health of my players. We're going to probably have to play in the playoff now. If I don't let them score, the kicks that they're going to take on the side, I mean, he doesn't care. Look, he does not care about his own reputation.
You've had two fantastic points on this. That's really good.
Yeah.
I would like to add about some of the hypocrisy we hear from the English perspective. England played Colombia in the round of 16. And we're going off on a tangent here, but I think it's part of what bothers me about this.
It's
and
pertinent.
It is pertinent how you put it. And John Stones afterwards, I've never played against an opponent like that. It was appalling, and he was ripping the Colombian effort for maybe time wasting and what. I watched that game, and I saw two English players take a dive to try and win a penalty. Crystal clear. I think Sterling was one. I want to say, was it Lingard? I don't want to mention names because I don't want to get them wrong.
But you just did.
But I just did. Disregard that. But there were two crystal clear dives in that game from England. So I go, if you were going to say that about Colombia, as maybe as unsavory as it may have been, and I would give John Stones that, when you live in a glass house, you can't. So I want to hear less of that from this broadcaster. I know personally he probably was appalled by it, but you can't sit there. You've got to say, look, the days of this being this code of ethics, these unwritten rules of soccer, that they're gone. This is not how we play anymore. And if you don't adhere to the new ways, you're going to lose games. You can't stop in the middle of a game to say, hey, wait, no, this is not how it's done. Yeah, sorry. It's kind of you don't dictate that now in the flow of a game.
Well, again, and this is another point. These code of ethics, when did they ever actually exist? The game was brutal back then. Ask Diego Maradona how many kicks he took during the play and after the play. I mean, I'm not condoning the hand of God.
Right.
But if you...
It was almost by necessity, he would have thought.
If you can watch that game from the first minute to the 90th minute, those English defenders were murdering him. They were brutal.
Vince, you're speaking my language right now.
Yeah. Again, it's just England,
we don't hear that part.
England is both above and beyond the game, yet they're a part of it because, they dive too. Everyone dives. The sooner we can accept it as a part of the game, although we may not agree with it, the sooner we can get past it. And it seems like the rest of the world has, and England continues to say, oh, but what are we doing? We're gentlemen.
We know we have English listeners, and we know you're gentlemen, and we appreciate how you view the game. We're just saying it's changed. So some of your own have changed with it. So we're not happy about it all. I don't want to see a handball to help win a World Cup at some point. I don't. But there's things they'll be policed here now. It's all getting better, but that's where we are. So don't give us a 1-star rating because you may be upset. But I think it was important that we said it.
Stop calling Italian players cheaters.
That must
hurts
stop.
Me.
Yeah. Hey. Ravanelli. Games. Hey, you got to get an edge. Got to get an edge. I'm sure if something like that led to bringing the cup back home, you would overlook it.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Did Fabio Grosso get fouled in that Australian game? I don't know. But I know what did happen.
Australia should have
buried that penalty kick
Australia
and
should
went
have
on.
knocked out Italy right then and there. It should have been over.
Well,
but they didn't. They didn't. Says a lot about the Italian wherewithal. All right. Let us know what you think. I think we gave you 2 really good talking points this week that you can leave comments, which we will share next week on Inside LAFC. Subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to all the LAFC podcasts. They are great listening. They're very well created and thought out, especially that of the players.
I believe we have we have the locker room coming this week, and I think back-to-back even coming this week. So big week leading into another big home match on YouTube TV. See,
Thank
I'm
you.
Good at this.
Yeah, you got to help promote it because it looks very self-serving for me.
On YouTube TV with
Subscribe.
Matt. Warren Barton, here's your +1.
Warren Barton's the +1. Mark Rogandino, Javrina Catalina taking on the Fire. We love being home, and I think we're 2 for 2 at home games on YouTube. Everyone's got a good record. When you broadcast LAFC, you're all going to have a good record.
We are perfect. The team's perfect at home.
Yeah,
so of course you are.
Cincinnati and Real Salt Lake.
And there's a fan fest in front at Christmas Tree Lane this weekend.
If you're thinking, I think this is something we want to share. A lot of people think these games are all sold out. There are tickets available, some really good prices. So go to LAFC.com for tickets. If you haven't been to a game, make this your first. Cinco de Mayo weekend as well. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff to do. So this is a great time to check things out for the first time. We'll be around. Come and say hello. All right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.